1. e4. The solid German grandmaster Wolfgang Onziker opens with the king's pawn, bravely choosing to challenge Fischer in the sharpest and most theoretical openings. 1. c5. Fischer responds with his signature weapon, the Sicilian defense. This combative reply creates an immediate imbalance, signaling his unyielding intention to play for a win from the start. 2. nf3. The most natural and popular developing move. Onziker brings his knight to its best square, controlling the center and preparing to challenge Black's setup in the most principled way. 2. d6. A solid and principled move. Fischer reinforces his central foothold and prepares the ground for his beloved Najdorf variation, one of the most respected and complex systems in chess. 3. d4. The thematic central strike. Onziker blasts open the position, creating the sharp, unbalanced struggle that defines the Sicilian defense and where tactical masters thrive. 3. cxd4. The obligatory exchange. Fischer cedes control of the center temporarily in exchange for a long-term structural advantage with his central pawn majority and the open c-file. For nxd4, the white knight occupies its ideal central post on d4. From this commanding square, it will exert a powerful influence and serve as the pivot for white's strategic operations. 4. nf6. Fischer develops his knight with a tempo, attacking the undefended e4 pawn. This forces white's hand and allows black to gain valuable time for his own development. 5. nc3. The logical and most common developing move. Onziker brings another knight into the game, reinforces his control of the center, and prepares for the main theoretical battle. 5. 6. The signature move of the Najdorf variation. This subtle pawn move prevents white's pieces from jumping to b5 and prepares a dangerous queenside expansion with b5. 6. b2. The Opasensky variation. Onziker chooses a solid and positional approach, aiming for a slow, strategic squeeze rather than the wild, immediate attacks of other systems. 6. e5. The classic response. Fischer challenges for central space, kicking the white knight and creating a complex pawn structure where both sides will have their chances. 7. nb3. The knight is forced to retreat to the flank, a typical maneuver in this line. From b3, it eyes key queenside squares and prepares to support white's strategic plans. 7. b6. A solid and flexible developing move. Fischer prepares to control the d5 square and keeps his options open for both kingside and queenside castling. 8. Onziker castles his king to safety, connecting his rooks and completing his initial development before embarking on the complex middle game struggle. 8. nbd7. A key developing move in the Najdorf. The knight comes to a flexible square from where it can support the center and prepare to be rerouted to b6 or c5. 9. f4. Onziker begins to expand on the kingside, a typical plan in this setup. He aims to seize space and create attacking chances against the future castled black king. 9. qc7. A multi-purpose queen move. Fischer develops his queen to a useful square, from where it controls the c-file and prepares to challenge white's control of the center. 10. f5. A very committal and aggressive pawn thrust. Onziker clamps down on the kingside, seizing more space and forcing the black bishop to a new square. 10. bc4. The best reply. Fischer's bishop lands on an incredibly annoying square. From c4, it disrupts white's coordination and becomes a major thorn in his side. 11. 4. Onziker creates a queenside anchor and prevents black from expanding too quickly with b5, a necessary prophylactic move in a tense position. 11. b7. A calm and precise developing move. Fischer prepares to castle his king to safety, content with the problems his active bishop on c4 is causing. 12. b3. A logical developing move, but perhaps too slow. Onziker is playing a solid, classical game, but Fischer's dynamic and energetic play is beginning to seize the initiative. 12. Fischer castles his king, and the strategic battle is now fully engaged. White has a space advantage, but black's pieces are more active and better coordinated. 13. 5. Onziker fixes the queenside pawn structure, creating a long-term weakness on b6 that he hopes to exploit. However, this also gives black a target on a5. 13. b5. The thematic pawn break. Fischer strikes on the queen side at the perfect moment, challenging white's control and ripping open lines for his rooks and queen. 14. Axe 6. The pawn exchange is forced. This opens the a-file for black's rook, a crucial long-term advantage that will become a major theme of the game. 14. Nxb6. The recapture brings the knight to a powerful square from where it controls the center and supports black's queenside initiative. The tide is turning. 15. Bxb6. Onziker decides to trade his bishop for the knight, hoping to relieve some of the pressure. However, this gives black's queen a powerful post on b6. 15. Qxb6+. The recapture with check brings the queen to a dominating square. The initiative is now firmly in Fischer's hands, and he will not let it go. 16. Kh1. The king is forced to the corner, a sad necessity. White is now completely on the defensive, reacting to black's powerful and relentless pressure. 16. Bb5. A brilliant and deep positional move. Fischer prepares to trade his bad bishop for white's good one, a classic strategy to enhance his control of the light squares. 17. Bxb5. Onziker is forced to accept the trade, but this is a major strategic concession. Fischer is now left with a good bishop versus a bad knight, a decisive long-term advantage. 17. Axb5. The recapture solidifies black's control of the queenside. The b5 pawn is a monster, and the open a-file is a highway for black's rooks. 18. Nd5. A desperate attempt to create some counterplay by activating the knight. However, this allows a series of exchanges that will only clarify black's decisive advantage. 18. Nxd5. The simplest and best reply. Fischer trades pieces, knowing that the resulting endgame will be much easier to win with his superior structure and more active pieces. 19. Qxd5. The queen recapture. The position has been simplified, but Fischer's strategic grip has only tightened. His control of the a-file is absolute. 19. Ra4. A strategic masterpiece. The rook lands on the a4 outpost, from where it dominates the entire board, paralyzes white's pieces, and is impossible to dislodge. 20. Ec3. A passive and necessary move to defend against the invasion on the b-file. White is completely tied down, unable to formulate any constructive plan. 20. Qa6. The queen swings to the a-file, preparing to double major pieces and create an overwhelming and unstoppable concentration of force on the queenside. 21. H3. A feudal pawn move, a sign of complete desperation. Onziker is out of ideas and can only wait for Fischer to deliver the final, crushing blow. 21. Rc8. The final piece joins the assault. Fischer brings his last rook to the open c-file, and his control over the position is now absolute and overwhelming. 22. Erf1. Onziker shuffles his rook, but he is just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. The position is strategically lost, and the end is near. 22. H6. A calm and useful prophylactic move. Fischer creates an escape square for his king and takes away key squares from white's pieces, slowly squeezing the life out of the position. 23. Kh2. Hopeless king shuffling. White is completely paralyzed and can only wait for the executioner's axe to fall. The psychological pressure must be immense. 23. Bg5. The bishop finds its dream square. From g5, it eyes the weak points in white's kingside and prepares to join the final, decisive assault. 24. G3. A desperate attempt to create some space for his king, but this move only creates new and fatal weaknesses in his own position, which Fischer will exploit with ruthless precision. 24. Qa7. The queen returns to the a-file, renewing the threat of doubling and demonstrating the complete and utter helplessness of white's position. 25. Kg2. The king is forced to shuffle again. It is a lonely and tragic figure, a helpless spectator to the destruction of its own kingdom. 25. Ra2. The doubling is complete. The black rooks on the a-file are a symphony of destruction, a perfectly coordinated force that is about to tear the white position to shreds. 26. Kf1. A final, fatal mistake in a completely lost position. The king walks into a brilliant and decisive tactical shot that will end the game in spectacular fashion. 26. Rxc3. The thunderbolt. The brilliant and crushing culmination of Fischer's strategic masterpiece. This stunning rook sacrifice deflects the b-pawn and rips open the c-file for a decisive attack on the helpless white king. Seeing the inevitable, Wolfgang Unzicker resigns.